Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one, we're taking a look at the new things coming to the brand new February season of Marvel Snap. So obviously, MODOK joins the game as a part of the season pass, but what about the other stuff? What about the locations we're going to be seeing and the other new cards entering the game via Series 5? So we have all that information. We're going to go over it here. We will start out just taking a peek at the locations. So there are 4 locations here. New location dropping every Tuesday. So the first one should be live tomorrow. First one is the Sacred Timeline. First to fill this gets a copy of their opening hand. That seems potentially really crazy in the right deck. I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about how to brew for this, but that's kind of an interesting one. It's kind of like the Raft, except with a different payoff. So that's kind of cool. Then we have Quantum Tunnel. When you play a card here, swap it with a card in your deck. So Lockjaw at home. Pretty much Lockjaw built into a location. Kind of cool. The next one is the Quantum Realm. When you play a card here, set its base power to 2. So finally, a location that messes with power that Cerebro 2 actually likes. That's kind of funny. Kind of an interesting one. And the last one, Camp Lay. Add a random 3-cost card to each player's hand. So good locations overall. The thing I like about this is that none of these are super overly restrictive. I guess you could argue that Quantum Tunnel incentivizes not playing into it in certain decks, but overall these don't feel very restricted compared to the locations we've had in the past month or two. So I'm all for this. I think more locations that don't restrict you super hard, probably for the best because we have a lot of them now. I guess you could argue the Quantum Realm was a bit of a restriction depending on your deck too, but definitely not as harsh as some of the other ones released. So those are the locations. They're going to be dropping every Tuesday throughout the month, and I'll be doing my best to have deck overviews and guides for all these different locations as they release. Moving on to the cards. So there are 3 cards joining the game this month, down from 4 last month because February is a shorter month. And this is, I guess, the shortest season of the year due to that. But we have 3 cards joining the game. First up, probably the most relevant to the theme of the season, is Kang. Kang is a 5-cost 0 power on reveal. Look at what your opponent did, then start the turn without Kang. So I initially misinterpreted how this card works. I thought you were going to get to restart the turn, and the stuff your opponent played kind of stayed in place. After thinking about it a bit longer, it probably doesn't work that way. It most likely just restarts the full turn for everybody. Imagine you and your opponent, you draw the same card. It's like you didn't play anything the actual turn before it. It's basically just like restarting, but Kang no longer there. Cool effect. It's neat, but I don't think it's actually super powerful. And you're going down a card for the sake of information, when you could also gain information just by playing a card like Daredevil, and then you get stats on the board. Now, obviously, Daredevil only works for turn 5, whereas you can do this on the final turn, so maybe there's some value there. But overall, I'm not really seeing the current appeal for this card. Maybe this is an effect that gets stronger over time as some other synergy or mechanic makes it work a little bit better. But for the time being, I don't think Kang is going to be a very competitive card. This seems like more of a fun thematic card to me. But definitely an interesting one, and honestly, I kind of hope I'm wrong, and I hope the card is better than I think it is. But for now, I think it's kind of a mid card, if not bad, and I would definitely not recommend spending 6k tokens on it. It just seems like there are a lot better. Moving on to our second card here, Stature. Stature is a 5-cost 7 power with the text, this card costs 1 if your opponent discarded a card from their hand game. So this feels like kind of a bit of tech against, well, we just gave everyone bought MODOK, so people are going to be discarding cards, and maybe discard is a more relevant part of the meta. And if so, maybe this card sees a little bit of play. I'm not sure discard's going to propel back to being that popular to where this can be run as a commonly effective tech card. Now, the one interaction that obviously stands out is if you're running Moon Knight deck, you can force, or just Moon Knight in your deck, you can force your opponent to discard a card and guarantee that she'll cost 1. But I'm not really sure that just stuffing Moon Knight into a deck to do that is really worth it. Maybe if you're playing a discard deck already and you get another benefit from it, but if you're playing a discard deck, the discard lists are usually pretty tight and don't have space for a card like this that doesn't really advance their game plan. It's just kind of stats. I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's a conditional card and one that will probably get better over time as more discard stuff is added. Maybe there are other ways to get your opponent to discard cards. Maybe they eventually buff Black Bolt. Who knows? But for the time being, I don't think Stature is going to be a super played card, and she would definitely not be a recommendation for spending 6k tokens on. And then that leads us to our last card here, and I think we saved the best for last. Ghost. Ghost is a 1-cost, 2-power with ongoing. Your cards are always revealed last. It clarifies their on-reveal abilities happen. So this is a good card. I think Ghost is actually a really good card, and if Sherry is going to be a big part of the meta, which I think is going to happen after the balance changes occur, I think Ghost is going to be a very, very relevant card. And the big reason for that are powerful and common tech cards like Shang-Chi, as well as one of the very powerful kind of swing cards, Valkyrie. They all really appreciate this card, and the interesting thing about it is Ghost can be used both offensively and defensively. If you are making a big thing, or if your goal is to make a big thing on the final turn, being able to weave in Ghost to make sure during your early turns you just play Ghost. That way you're going to be revealing second, so you don't have to worry about getting Shang-Chi towards the end of the game. On the other side of it, you can basically guarantee that you will be revealing last, so even if you have priority, your Shang-Chis and your Enchantresses and whatnot are still effective. So I think that makes this card very versatile in that you can use it both offensively and defensively, and it's just a really decent 1-drop. It's average stats for a 1-drop. You could also maybe put this in an ongoing deck if you wanted to buff it with Spectrum, but I'm not sure that's the best route to go for it, but maybe it is. We'll see. For me, what I'm excited about with this card is definitely Valkyrie. I love Valkyrie, and this feels like the perfect card to pair with her, and also just feels good at just helping you disrupt or protect a game plan that's focused around big cards, which I do think is going to be a pretty significant part of the meta. So this card does get my seal of approval for worth your tokens if the effect interests you, if you are playing Valkyrie decks, or if you're playing big Shuri decks. I think this is going to be, or even just control decks, like a Sarah control style shell. I think this is going to be a card that is kind of worth consideration. And it's easily the one I'm most excited for. Anyways, I like this card. I would recommend it. And it's definitely the one card I am for sure buying as it drops this season. But that's pretty much all the news we have for the new season of Marvel Snap February. Pretty excited about Ghost and for MODOK to really get more of a chance to shine post nerfs. So looking forward to that. Gonna have a bunch of content about that stuff. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next. Peace.